Hello, I'm Charlie Winburn. I am very excited about this upcoming series that we're going to be having at Renew Community Church, and I want to invite you right now to our Easter celebration, a new 5-week series that's going to be starting on Sunday, March the 31st through April the 28th in our 65-minute service, 11 a.m. to 12:05 p.m. Our upcoming series is titled Betrayal, Let It Go.
When I was 19 years old, I was involved in a church and had to tell my family and friends that I was pregnant. And it was at that point in my life where the friends that I had had my entire life left me. My Christian friends no longer accepted me for who I was. And it wasn't until I got involved with real faithful people that could look past that and see me for what I was and what I could be with the right love and support. It wasn't until then that I felt what God's love can really do in somebody's life. And it wasn't until then that I could flourish and grow into the person that I am today. It was their betrayal that shunned me, but it was God's love that gave me hope.
So how have you been betrayed?
I've been betrayed. I actually was betrayed by the age of 7 years old. I was supposed to be being watched by my older siblings, and they actually wasn't watching me at the present time. Where we was going was, to the park, and I wandered off trying to go back to the home, and where a man stopped me and asked me to come across the street, where I did volunteer to come across the street, being a good, nice person that I was. And he tried to volunteer me into his vehicle, where I screamed and I ran. And my brother's still playing down there, never seen nothing that happened, and I could have been easily snatched had I not known the right from wrong, and being able to be like, okay, this is not right. I got to go tell someone. And that's what I instantly did. And the cops was called, so I'm glad that now that I'm older, I'm able to establish a way of life and what to say to people and what not to say to people.
So you felt that your brothers betrayed you?
Yeah, I did. At that moment in time, I did.
When I was younger, I got in a lot of trouble. And the friends that I was hanging with, all they did was get me in more trouble. I had nobody close to me. So my mom thought it'd be a good idea if I go stay with my uncle in Illinois. When I got there, it was hard for me to make friends. Everybody that I wanted to make friends with were drug dealers and got in a lot of trouble. But then I found somebody. I found somebody that we could have fun with and we could work on school stuff with. And it seemed like, I was turning over a new leaf. But then one day out of the blue, he invited me to his house. He invited me to his house and he tried to molest me. I fought him off and I ran out the house and I ran to my uncle's house and I started kicking in the door. And I was so upset, just mad, And from that day forward, I just couldn't trust anybody, and I would get upset so fast. And I knew that wasn't the way to go. So, when I got a little bit older, I finally found some folks that's been through what I've been through, and they helped me to see that I had to let it go.
So how you feel now?
I have my good days. I have my bad days. but I see a better outcome, and I trust more now.
How have you been betrayed?
Well, I'd have to say that I was betrayed by my dad, by the very fact that he wasn't a dad to me or my siblings. My mother passed away when I was 15 months old, and he spent a couple of years doing his own thing and left me with his parents, and then he came back and picked me up. But even then, he still wasn't my dad. You know, he was, when I was little, he was my daddy. You know, I just wanted my daddy to love me, and he couldn't. You know, he had his own problems, his own issues, and he drowned all of those in drugs. And most of my friends growing up were the kids of his drug friends, of his dealers. And because he was always concerned about making sure that he could pay them, he took the money that came from my mother to pay for his drugs. He took money that should have gone to food and rent to pay for his drugs. And so therefore we moved around a lot. We were evicted. You know, it was a lonely, really lonely time.
Tell me about your betrayal.
Well, it was about 2 years ago, and I had a nice job. I was about to move into a new home, and I had to stay with some friends. You know, they let me stay with them until I could get all the stuff with the new place figured out and stuff. And they got me hooked on drugs and stuff like that. And, you know, I started doing them on a daily basis, and eventually I got drug tested and got fired from my job. So I lost any way I could have got the house I wanted to buy, and my friends basically, because I didn't have a job, kicked me out, and I was homeless on the streets. So they betrayed me by, you know, kicking me out when they're the ones that got me on drugs in the first place.
Well, I was in a relationship for over a year, about 4 years ago, and he and I were inseparable, literally, for, as you would think a typical relationship would be. Last 2 months of our relationship, he started to act differently, and it was kind of my first long term, so I wasn't really used to that. And I had a dear friend of mine who was with me the entire time, from the good and the bad, everything, and I didn't hear from her after we broke up for 2 months. Went on a vacation with a friend, came back, she got this random knock on the door, and she was there at the door, and she told me, "I have something to tell you." And I said, "Okay." After 2 months, I'm thinking, well, she better have something to say. And she tells me, "Your last 2 months of your relationship with your boyfriend, I fooled around with him." And that moment, I came worse than upset. I was mortified. I was embarrassed, and just said, "Get out, and I don't want to talk to you ever again." And it took me a long time to really heal from that.
Well, basically, I was starting a business with a friend of mine. We'd been friends for a few years, and had some really great ideas. And out of the blue, she just decided she no longer wanted to be a part of the business. And I couldn't understand why. And turns out she went and started her own, and she's using pretty much the same ideas we came up with together. And I am just baffled by it, just completely.
So how do you feel now, right now?
Right now, I'm still hurt. It happened a few months back, but I'm still hurt and angry, a little angry, confused. Just, you think you know someone, you know?
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. Tell me a little bit about your betrayal.
You know, I was deployed to Iraq for a year ago, and well, you know, we don't have a lot of internet access out in the field. So I had, you know, the only person that I could trust, my brother. I mean, we've been like this for as long as we've been little kids, you know. And, well, I allowed him to, you know, check my bank account and things. And he ended up taking everything. I mean, all of my money from being deployed. He took it all, and I finally got home, and I couldn't make my mortgage anymore. So I've lived on the street for a year until one of my good friends from the Army, about a week ago, I thank him every day that he lets me stay in his house, just until I can, you know, until I can get back on my feet again.
Betrayal, Let It Go, a 5-week series at Renew Community Church. I want to invite you and your family to join us on Easter Sunday, March the 31st, in our 65-minute worship service from 11 a.m. to 12:05 p.m.